hopefully the internet here keeps up. All right, here we go.
Welcome to the first Full Complaint podcast with my dad and Booster and Chris. Enjoy your show.
All right. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How are you?
That's good. Not too bad. What do we got for comment here already? All right, everybody. Welcome to the first Focal Plane podcast, episode 64. Want to get into the precision rifle game? Do you hate the stock options that are out there? Why not hit up Shane at EM Precision Rifles to get you a sweet Curtis custom action, an International Barrels tube, an MDT chassis to spice up your life. Distributors for MDT, IBI, Curtis Custom, Stiller, Trigger Tech, McMillan, anything you want, and Steve will build it. If you tell Shane we sent you, expect white glove service and nothing but quality. You will not be disappointed. Vanja, did you get white glove service when you went there?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to ask how private that is.
Shane has all the details. It's fine.
All right. Hit up Shane on Facebook, Instagram, and their website at emprifles.ca. So, Oscar, Rooster all alone, who's doing the nerdy stuff exactly. I'm struggling here, Oscar. Sean's little guy's just starting hockey tonight, so he's going to be a little bit late. Chris is missing in action. Maybe he's had his ass handed to him for the first time in forever. I don't know. That guy's 6'6" in pretty good shape. I'm not sure how possible that is, but I'm sure there's somebody out there. So I'll just continue on here with the ad reads. Unless you want to do some, Vanja.
No, you go right ahead.
All right. Next up is Bolt Action Coffee. They're a Canadian veteran-owned and operated business. The Bolt Action Coffee team is passionate about long-range precision shooting and the pursuit of the world's best coffee. All the beans they procure and roast is specialty coffee, which makes up the top 2% of coffee in the world in any given harvest. Specialty coffee provides superior flavor to any other standard coffee on the market today and is truly a unique experience. If you like coffee, you'll love Bolt Action Coffee, a higher caliber coffee experience. Check them out at boltactioncoffee.com and order online or look for the local retail stores stocking in your area. Use First Focal Plane, all one word, all caps, at checkout for 10% off your order. And support the show. All right. We've got nobody on. Well, I'm going to keep rolling through here, get that done. Call sign 66. We believe that the progression of a shooter's ability or capability goes hand in hand with his or her own personal philosophy in regard to perceived capability and the requirement for continued learning. The fostering and mentorship of the Brotherhood offers significant benefit to the morale of all involved. It provides operational and retired snipers complemented by experienced civilian long-range precision shooters with a way to give back to their community. Learn more about what Callsign 66 has to offer. Check them out at callsign66.ca. All right, let's get into you a little bit, Vanja.
Sure.
Vanja, who are you?
Well, I am the co-founder and president of Apex Optics, a new Canadian optics company, and we're kind of releasing a new product here in the next couple of months, and we're very excited to bring it to we're very excited to bring it to the Canadian market for sure.
That's
and
awesome.
And really one of the first things that we're doing is one of the first kind of areas that we identified where we could provide a lot of value to precision rifle shooters is in the kind of the PRS, NRL / ELR game.
Yep.
And so we designed an optic that we think is honestly, for the features, I don't think it can be beat. And when we decided to sit down and said, okay, what do we want in an optic? We went through a myriad of choices and features that all the kind of the top end optics have that cost probably 3-4 times the amount of money that we're charging. And one of the first things we said was, hey, it has to have top end glass. It's got to have high quality Japanese glass. That was a good starting point, and then we just kind of went from there. So
that's a tough market to get into, man. It's a bold move, Cotton.
That's right. Let's see if it pays off. Yeah.
No kidding. So let's start at the beginning, I suppose. How did you make that leap in the first place?
Well, I've been a competitive shooter for probably 5 or 6 years in different disciplines. So I started with IPSC and 3-gun, did some skeets here and there, and trap shooting. And then when our glorious leader decided to ban the AR platforms that more or less killed 3-gun as we knew it, and I kind of just went, whatever, I'll find something else. Still did a little bit of IPSC here and there, competed. And got into PRS. I saw some videos. I saw there was a pretty awesome community here in Canada, and especially in Western Canada where we're at. And just, honestly got into that and tried it out, loved it, hit up a competition. That's where I met Shane and Mikey and all the EM crew there, and got introduced to those guys. We started chatting a bunch, and you know what? I had like a $600 optic on my rifle at the time. Wanted something better for the next season, didn't really find anything that I wanted to spend in that price range. And for the features that I was going to get, I was like, there seems to be a hole here. So then I spent like 3 months researching every single optic manufacturer on earth, and like had umpteen spreadsheets and kind of comparing everything, and then got together with a few other guys. And a lot of us have technology backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, CAD CAM, 3D modeling, all that kind of stuff, and kind of put our heads together and said, okay, let's see if we can make something, right? So I have a lot of like overseas procurement experience, started talking to a bunch of manufacturers, and really kind of how we landed on this was like, can we get this optic with everything that we want on it that a competitive shooter would want, with top end glass and like rugged construction and all the features, for a price point that we think is going to be super fair. And after a bunch of research, we was like, I think this seems like it could be a thing, right? So we got down into the whole kind of manufacturing and prototyping process with them. Kind of landed on something. We're like, this is going to be something for sure, and kind of refined it through some iterations. And I think we had probably like 21 different versions of prototypes before we kind of settled on. Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, what kind of process was that?
Well, I have a 3D printer sitting over in the corner here that I moved off my desk. That thing sat on my desk permanently for like a year. I've been working with my 3D modeler guys. It was like, okay, well, this is going to work. We like just the knobs alone, right? Like the elevation and windage knobs and the like the knurling on it and the pattern and everything. Probably that alone was probably 15 different revs. So is that
right?
Just to get to the right feel, we're like, no, that's too rigid, or that's a little bit too sharp, and maybe file it down a little bit and then print off the next version. And like, here's like the 3D printed model of like the actual zoom lever and the throw lever and stuff. And this is just a very rudimentary one, but it's stuff like this. We're like, and then you have sitting around feeling it and playing with it. And so, it's been an interesting learning experience for me too, because, I have a bit of an optics background from photography, because I'm a semi-professional photographer. And, I was very like intimate knowledge of lenses and light transmission and all that stuff. But optics was an entirely different game. So it was interesting to apply some of that knowledge to that. But it was very cool. Yeah.
Right.
How exactly is it different? Hi guys, by the way. Yeah, exactly.
This is Chris.
How is it different? I believe you 100%. I'm just, if you could flesh it out for us a little bit, exactly how.
Well, like the lenses themselves are not substantially different. It's just more so things like that I didn't really ever consider before, like the interior of the erector system. To me, like not really from an optical perspective, but just the internal mechanics of the scope itself, and moving the reticle up and down, and all the different knobs and parallax. And like you never have to really think about that kind of stuff when you're fiddling around with the camera, right? Because a lot of the stuff is either on the actual lens itself, or the camera just does it for you. But there's definitely considerations there. And then when you get into like the science of like the parallax adjustment knob, and why we decided not to have any numbers on our knob, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Once kind of like talking to the engineers, they're like, we recommend this because you're going to have a lot of scope sent back. Like, oh, why is that? It's like, well, because weather conditions, atmospheric conditions can affect the parallax, right?
Yeah.
So if you just have kind of indicators of where it should be, and then people can just fine tune it based on the conditions at the time, then yeah. So
it's unbelievable, honestly, how many people. Well, kind of unbelievable. I don't want to sound how do I say elitist here or anything, but I've seen so many guys. Okay, we're going to go out to 400, and they look and okay, there's 400. They haven't grasped that concept yet of fine tuning, and this is just a guide, is not an exact position for that range.
It's a reference mark, right? So
that's right.
Go from there.
Yeah, that's all.
So yeah, that's kind of how we got started, honestly. And then we've been in this for about a year now, through the R&D cycle and product development and testing and smashing the crap out of things and seeing if it'll stand up in minus 35 and the frozen tundra and the badlands of Alberta and Saskatchewan, the super dusty soil, like that super, super fine silt, and just making sure we put it through every single thing that we could think of. And yeah, it's been holding up really well.
So who do you I guess did you just use your kind of circle of friends to start well, first of all, the design process, the inputs from different shooters, that what they like in a scope and what they think is a good idea, what they'd like to see in something that their scope is missing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Like I reached out to Mikey Friesen right away, because him and I hit it off when we were on the squad together shooting my first competition, and obviously with Shane and Carrie and those guys, and then there was a couple other guys like Saul Friesen and a few of the other guys from Saskatchewan that were some of the like really, really good shooters in Western Canada. They competed probably 100 times over what I did at that point. So I really trusted their input on stuff, and I obviously we had our initial set of requirements and the product specs, the things that we wanted to see. But then I put out like a 20 question questionnaire for anybody, and I kind of started pinging people. I was like, hey, here's what we're doing. We're starting up a new Canadian optics company. Who wants to have any kind of input, right? And so I reached out to a bunch of guys, and the number one thing that shocked me throughout this entire process, and it was a pleasant surprise, is just how willing everybody was to give input, right? They're like, I've never been asked before. I would love to give you input, right?
Oh, no kidding, because we've been forced to swallow the options that are out there, and well, you've probably come across it where you like the options, some of the options on one scope, but it's missing something you'd really prefer, but it's available on another scope.
Yeah, exactly. And basically in the questionnaire, like the more or less everybody answered the questions fairly in line with one another. Like it was pretty interesting to watch. Like guys who've shot a lot and shot for a lot of years, they're like, just don't bother with these things. They're all just filler, right? Everybody includes it because it should be, for example, right? But for the most part, everybody's like, yeah, just stick to mill, especially if you're hunting, targeting the PRS game. And that was obviously what we were going to do anyway, but it was good to have that kind of reinforcement, right? And
who shoots MOA these days anyways?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, correct.
Bunch of knuckle dragging Neanderthals like me.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny though, like one guy did ask me, are you going to have an MOA version? I'm like, well, if enough people want them, like we'll build one. That's not a big deal. Like
I'm glad somebody asked you, because I was gonna.
Well, if you're going to do that, you might as well go with a second focal plane scope, for Christ's sake.
Right. Exactly. And just have your stuff dialed in at like one magnification range.
You're going to put wood knobs on it too, or what?
Yeah.
We can call that a
magnification. Yeah.
Special edition wood knobs.
That's right. Yeah.
Special edition.
Oh, too funny.
But yeah,
so let's talk about that for a second, because like obviously you guys went with the precision route with the first model of scope that you have.
Yes.
Like it's what is exactly 4 by, I gotta look it up here.
4
by 32 by 56, 34 mil tube. Like everything, exposed turrets, everything about that says precision scope.
100%. Yep.
What's next? Like obviously you gotta get out there with the 4 by 32. I mean, obviously, and I'd like to talk about that as well. But I mean, I'm
I was going to
assuming
build
that
up
there's
to that,
something-
Chris.
I'm jumping right into it.
That's fine. Let's jump in. Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
assuming that there's a plan for expanding the line of optics.
We had
right?
we had a whole segment dedicated to this. The plan was before we're going to talk about future stuff toward the end. But
No.
but all right, let's go.
No, that's
I should-
fine. We
I
can
should
turn
do-
back around.
You shouldn't have had me on the show tonight.
I know.
should have
I
just
know.
kept doing what I was doing.
I make this mistake every show. Hey, where's Chris?
Oops. I love getting ahead of myself, but I also, as a guy who has a very diverse interest in firearms, I mean, that really when I was first introduced to Apex and I first looked at your guys' website, I was like, oh, sweet, that's a wicked looking scope. And then my second thought was, what about for my semi-auto? What about for my this? What about my that? Blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's the question.
Yeah,
It's
for
deep.
sure. And we will have something for you, Chris, for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're
In
working on
MOA?
maybe
Sorry.
one day. Maybe I'll make one just for you.
I'll
How
just
about
let you answer the question. How about
Yeah. No, honestly, so right now we're working on 2 different prototypes. And then there's going to be a third one coming out. I'm just waiting for it to come back from the factory, but we're working on a 1 to 10.
A 1 to 10?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So for our semi-auto platforms, whatever legal versions we still have allowed.
Like an
Right.
LPVO?
Yeah, LPVO, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we will have, and we're still working out kind of what we want for the reticle for that, but that's coming in December, the first set of prototypes arriving to me to kind of get my first hands on it. But, and then after that, the one that I'm more interested in personally, and not that I'm not interested in the 1 to 10, because I shoot semi-auto platforms, or I used to anyway, but is a hunting rifle optic. So we're going with basically what you have here in the tactical, kind of just shrunk down, smaller form factor, lighter weight. We're still going to have exposed turrets, but they're going to be locking. They're going to be,
Right.
Still with 0 stop and all that jazz. We're probably going to have locking windage and elevation, but we're still trying to determine where the sweet spot on that is.
Very cool.
But yeah, so those are the next 2 things that we're working on, and then after that we might get into the red dots and that kind of jazz, because from my IPSC days, that still kind of gnaws in the back of my head. I'd love to have my own red dot brand for pistols.
Spudman wants to buy really, really expensive scope. He said, I'd buy this in a nanosecond, a scope with a bubble level embedded in the glass. Just an idea.
How would that even work? Didn't he ask
Well-
that same thing when we had Athlon on like a year and a half ago?
Maybe, I don't know. He's still chasing it.
What do you think, Vanya? How would that work?
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't know. I don't think that would work, because the bubble would disappear at a certain magnification level, would it not? Like, where would you place that?
Right. Exactly,
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spud says, yes, I did.
Yes, he did. It almost seems like what you would need is like to embed some. Now we're getting like real sci-fi out there, wacko.
Just
ideas
hang it
now,
off
like-
the reticle inside.
No. You're
Oh,
thinking
wait,
too
no,
low
that's
tech.
etched glass.
You're still thinking about wooden knobs here. I'm
Right.
thinking, I'm thinking about somehow being able to have some sort of electronic HUD inside there
Oh,
that would
yeah.
give you a digital readout of your tilt.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if we're getting into like Burris Eliminator territory.
Right,
here,
I was just going to say
I
exactly
actually don't know
that.
about the Eliminator.
Yeah, that's...
Is that what they
all-
do? They just do a digital HUD in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. It has a rangefinder built into it too, and you just hit a little button, and it ranges your target like it's an animal. It's meant to be a
Oh,
hunting
yeah.
scope generally, but
Yeah.
and then it actually moves your holdover dot, like it illuminates the dot for you, which is kind of cool. But it's kind of heavy from my understanding. I've never really played with one, but
Yeah.
I would imagine there'd be a lot of extra gear in there as soon as you start putting a lot of electronics in there.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's more warrantyable stuff is the way I look at it, right?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about your LPVO that you have planned for a second, and then I figure we'll get back to the one that you actually have right now.
Yeah.
You said that you're looking at a 1 to 10.
Mhm.
Why all the way up to 10?
Well, kind of in talking with most guys, everybody feels that 1 to 8 is great. they just need that extra little bit so that they could use it for some longer range stuff out to 400, 500, 600 yards. So most of us that shoot even these up to 32 power scopes, especially in PRS style competition or precision rifle, most of us don't really go above 16 all that often, right? You want to keep that wide field of view. You want to be able to pan between targets and transition fairly easily and quickly. So most of the time we're between 12 and 16, right? So, and we're shooting out to 1200. Obviously they're,
until I take one of your scopes to King of 2 Miles.
Right. Yes. Yes, exactly. And
I'm convinced Jens to dump that junk Schmidt.
Right. Yeah. So that was more or less the feedback that we heard from a lot of guys. Is like, you know what? I talked to a lot of guys out east, and obviously a few guys here around Calgary, and it's like, you know what? 10 would be awesome because it would give you that upper end if you needed it, but it still keeps that optic nice and tight. Lots of light transmission, lots of good image quality.
That would be a hell of a hunting scope too, I think. Hey.
But yeah, but it's definitely
that mag range for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Jens didn't like that at all.
Well, I had another question about that. Now here's the problem. I don't do mills, so I'm going to ask you just hypothetically, kind of an MOA. A lot of the LPVOs you see out there, they're, instead of your standard 4 clicks per MOA, you're looking at 2 clicks per MOA with a lot of them. Not obviously not all of them, but a lot of them. What are your feelings about that with an LPVO? Like, do you think that it should be more precise, less precise in the elevation and windage adjustment?
Yeah, I think, I don't see the reason to go, into half MOA per click territory. I prefer the quarter per, right? Or like the 0.1 mil per click.
Is that the standard for mills?
It's a standard for mills, 0.1 typically, yeah. So
you educated people can confirm.
Yeah, just make sure I'm not talking out of my ass, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I haven't really given a ton of thought to that. I've got a bunch of other guys working on the 1 to 10. Like, this was my primary focus, this particular one. So right now we're kind of going with, here's what could work. They're sending me a prototype. We're going to play with it. And then we'll go, okay, well, maybe that doesn't work for whatever reason. So, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. TBD. I have no strong opinions one way or the other, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the half minute per click comes from like being on rifles that need quick adjustment, or more coarse adjustment, right? Like it's
the same thing. You get into red dots, and a lot of red dots are like 1 click per MOA. It's the same idea. You need the less precise adjustment. They give you less precise adjustment. Because now you could probably answer this question, Vanya. I've always thought that they did that because there must be something in the mechanism that with more precise adjustment, you'll probably more difficult to get as much adjustment out of the turret before you reach the limit on the turret. Is that accurate?
Yes. And I think it also has something to do with the quality of the internal components that are used too, right? So certain materials are softer than others. And historically, a lot of scopes use brass internals.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So, and then brass wears relatively easily if it's getting used a lot, right? I guess, I don't know, relatively easily, but compared to other materials, right? So, and I'd imagine that there wouldn't be as a nice, distinctive, positive click as there is with something like stainless steel. And that's why we decided to go with stainless steel internals for everything, even though it costs more money for us and it eats into our margins, but it's a better quality product, right? And you get a better experience overall. So that's kind of my take on it.
Warranty work eats into your margin too, I would imagine. So
yes. Yeah. So it's a trade-off, right?
Yeah, I imagine that's probably an interesting thing in the optics market now, with so many companies that basically offer these, oh, you dropped it off the Empire State Building? Oops, I guess we'll warranty that for you.
Just to see if it'll bounce?
Yeah. It seems like a very interesting industry now that to be able to keep up with. It makes no sense that you'd be making, just make them stronger, make them more precision or more durable, and then you don't have to worry about that trend.
Yeah, for sure. And we decided to go with, a thicker aluminum body, by like, a half a mil or something than the standard because we wanted the body to be tougher and more durable. We decided to go with type 3 anodizing, because that gives it a harder finish. It's less, it's more scratch resistant, less prone to getting dinged up, and you can just kind of like, just buff it out kind of thing.
Right.
So those kinds of decisions, I think, are definitely going to pay off for us long term because we're hopefully going to have less warranty claims on things that are manufacturing defects. Now, talking about warranty, you kind of get pigeonholed into having to offer a lifetime warranty to everybody that you sell a scope to, and we're more than happy to do that because we're happy to stand behind our product, right? But you can't not offer a replacement warranty, because then you go, well, I'm going to spend $2,000 or $2,100 on this scope. I can spend $3,000 for this one, but with this one, I can throw it off the side of a building, like you said, and they'll just send me a new one. It's like, well, okay, we can do that too. So we're very careful to say that, we'll give you a lifetime warranty on pretty much every component in the scope, no problem. The only things that we won't cover are things like acts of God, like a fire, or things that your insurance already covers your scope for, or your rifles, or any of your other belongings. So, if you have a flood, God forbid, or a fire, or something happens, or it gets stolen out of your house or your truck, then well,
you got to draw the line somewhere.
What's reasonable, right?
Exactly right.
Or if you're a crazy YouTuber and you decide that you're going to try and recreate this through the scope shot from Enemy at the Gates.
Right. Yes.
Or I'm going to build my deck and drive spikes with this scope.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine that there was an optics company that was involved that was like, we'll just send you one for that, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned like half a mil thicker on the tube. Do you think will that have an effect on Papa Fudd, who doesn't have a torque screwdriver and over torques his rings? Like, is it going to make it more durable for like crushing the tube for over tightening and stuff like that?
Definitely, that plays a part in it. We give
that seems pretty worthwhile.
Yeah, we give a torque spec in our manual. So I can't remember what spec was, but it's in there, and we give a range that anything between this is totally safe. And then, just like Tylenol and ibuprofen bottles, whatever you put on the bottle account for 50 or 100% more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of how it is. I have a doctor friend who says
capacity with Jettas.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Same kind of principle, right? So
yeah. Well, that seems like a really good idea. I imagine it adds a little bit of weight to the scope, but it seems like a pretty good trade-off, especially, how many farmer hunters out there even read the manual,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or how many guys have leveling wedges, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So that back to the weight thing, like, so for the optic that we're coming out with now, not really a concern. Like, weight's not really an issue. In fact, the heavier the rifle, typically the better, right? Obviously you don't want to be in the 30-pound range necessarily, because you got to lug that thing around. But nobody really complains about the weight of scopes in this space all that much. But once you get into hunting side, for sure, the lighter the better. You have to really, all those considerations come into effect. Because I was the guy when I went on my backcountry hunt last year, I was counting grams. Like, I had a spreadsheet with every single thing that I weighed out that I was taking to the backcountry, because it was on your back, right? And you're hiking in, 7-8 miles just to camp.
Yep.
And then from camp, you're going out. So I was that guy that had like spreadsheets of every.
Did you cut a stubby toothbrush?
No, I had one of those finger mounted, like the little rubber ones. Yeah.
Well, that's much more high tech than me. I just take a full length toothbrush and cut it in half with a saw.
That works.
That works. I'm actually very much the same thing. It's why I'm using an LPVO on my hunting rifle for this year. It's just I wanted a bit of a lighter. A little bit of a lighter scope on it. It makes total sense. And you're absolutely right. I mean, like PRS, like, especially guys like Kurt, that are competing in the longer range PRS stuff, 2 miles, whatever, you can't hold the rifle standing offhand, let alone the rifle in a scope. So
not very well, at least, anyways. Hey,
yeah.
Don't we have video of that?
We do, actually, and it is coming in the review.
Oh no!
But and by the same token, I imagine if somebody does accidentally upend their rifle while they're getting off the line and it lands on the scope, you don't want it to crush, and that'd be embarrassing for in its own right.
For sure. That's exactly it. Like you want it to be able to take a beating too at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
it's a fine balance. I had a hunt ruined last year for me, and because I leaned my rifle up against a tree and my backpack, when I leaned back, kicked it off and hit a log, and then I just kind of turned around and went home because I was like, I don't trust it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I went to the range the next day, and sure enough, I was like 3 inches off to the right. So
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Funny.
Well, if you're
I'm
anything
sure we
like
all-
me, it really wouldn't affect the hunt anyways, because you got to see something in order to shoot at it.
you have no idea how much I can identify with that.
I think if you hunt long enough, I think everybody can.
everybody gets skunked eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody's got that story where they drop their rifle and then all of a sudden wondering why they can't shoot shit broadside.
Right.
Yep.
For me, it was 2 years ago. We trucked all the way out to the base camp, and I leaned. This first thing, I'm just unpacking my stuff. I leaned the rifle up against the corner of the bunk post, and my friend said something to me or whatever it was, or I can't remember what was happening, but I just turned around, and the back of my backpack just happened to brush the rifle, knocked it down.
Yeah.
Too stupid to realize that I was like, oh no, it's a good scope. It'll still be in zero. Came up the next morning against a deer that was maybe 50 meters away. Like, I mean, not a difficult shot. And I missed him 3 times, stood there 3 bloody times for me to shoot at 50 meters.
Yeah.
And I missed all 3 shots. So then we spent the rest of that day re-zeroing my rifle. Luckily, we've got the ability to do that at where we were. And then, very next day, first shot, one kill.
Yeah.
That
we've
deer
all
was
got
like
that.
that deer was like the little dog on Duck Hunter, remember, at Nintendo or whatever the hell it was.
yeah, he's laughing at me. Yeah. Well, the first 2 shots I think went so high over his back that he didn't even notice. And then I thought, like, this must be going high. So I aimed for like between his legs. And I think it zipped over his back close enough that it scared the shit out of him, and then he ran away.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Could have been
I
the crack of the bullet and just ruffled the fur kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You guys should have had Apex scopes in 2020. I could have avoided this situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about throwing this on my hunting rifle this year because I'm not going to be going all that far. So I'm like, well, what's an extra pound? Whatever. But
yeah. But I forget what is the total weight on this thing? You've got it.
We're at 37 ounces.
37 ounces. Okay. And once again, we're talking languages that I don't speak. How many pounds?
Just over 2 pounds.
Just over
2 pounds. See, and that's not that bad, man. That's not that bad at all.
No, it's just over a kilo. So 1,049 grams. So
there you go.
Yeah,
it's not horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So that's the thing with the next one. Like we're targeting a 3 to 15 for our hunting scope.
Oh yeah.
That's
so it's
great.
a 5x magnification. It'll be most likely a 44 millimeter objective lens and with a 30 millimeter body. So so it's probably going to come in a lot lighter than that.
And are you guys planning on doing first focal plane for most of your reticles, if not all, or
for the first iteration of the hunting? Yes, definitely. Because one of the things that it's interesting when you talk to the PRS competitor guys and you go, hey, you guys should come out with a hunting scope that has all the same things and works the exact same way as the rifle and the scope that I shoot, 2,000 rounds a year from versus the one that I shoot, 20. So they want to have those skills transfer between their
everyone wants to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, right. So that's kind
But
of
it makes a lot of sense, though. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, I want to, 1 to 55 magnification range in 1.5 pounds first focal plane with illuminated reticle and a bubble level
ridiculous.
in the objective lens.
Yeah. And a HUD.
And I want it for $600 retail.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
And made in the US or somewhere in Austria.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Just wondering, you stepped down, or you saying that your plan is to step down to like a 44 mil objective rather than the 56 or a 50 even. Did that come from testing that you've done, or just kind of educated not educated guesses, but just prior knowledge, I suppose.
So we've got two different versions of the prototype coming in, one with the 44, one with the 50. We're more in we're kind of leaning towards the 44 right now without having them side by side to look at. Kind of looking at the math that the engineers send over, they're like, you're looking at your light transmission and the ability to kind of capture all that light on the front end of the lens, varying by like a small percentage between the 44 and the 50. So you're like, well, how much low light coverage do you need between the two? A lot of hunting scopes are already in that 40 to 44 range. Some are in the 50. Very few are in 56 territory. I think maybe Zeiss or somebody is, but and there's probably a couple others. But yeah, it's, we're kind of just trying to play with that right now. We're targeting next summer for release for that, so we still got a little bit of time that we're working through some of these things. But we're interested to see the side by side, right, and kind of how that stacks up against our expectations. We think we're going to go with the 44, but we might just go with the 50. But.
Well, you know what? Doesn't most of your light transmission come from the lenses and the coatings rather than the physical size of the lens for the most part?
For the most part, the coatings play a huge part, right? So we have a 7-layer coating system that we're using across our entire line. So, it's got all that anti-reflection and anti-scratch coatings and everything like that, and then the light transmission and the low light coatings help as well. But I think at the end of the day, if you're not constrained by the size, it's just automatically going to let in more light the bigger the objective lens is. So it does play a significant factor, but between a 50 and a 56, you're talking probably like 9% bigger.
Yeah, so all you spotlighting poachers out there, it just doesn't make that big a difference. You're still okay with the 44.
Yeah, I would say you're still okay with the 44.
You're still okay with whatever
right. With whatever you can get away with.
Do whatever you're gonna do.
Okay. That is in no way an endorsement for poaching.
No, just use your SKS anyways, Bubba.
That's right.
Yeah.
Volume.
Yeah.
So let's, if you don't mind, let's reel it back a little bit. How do you go about finding the manufacturer now, the engineer and the manufacturer?
Well, so the engineer, I have a lot of engineer friends. I have a lot of guys that I've kind of grown up with over the years, and guys who I've met through my professional network that share the hobby with me. And I reached out to a couple of them and said, hey, would you be interested in participating? Like, what do you want to do with this? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do something cool. And that's kind of how this whole thing started. We just kind of started screwing around and thinking about what works, what doesn't work, what do we want to see, what things do we want to omit and not bother with. And yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then we just started putting things to paper and we started looking at all the different features. And then that's kind of how I focused in on. So I was primarily the guy talking to manufacturers and up in the middle of the night trying to, source through who we wanted to work with versus who we didn't want to work with. There are lots of different manufacturers in different countries that have good reputations versus one that don't. Trying to do that research is near impossible. You kind of have to just talk to everybody. And then in the age of COVID, I wasn't going to be going over there. So we did Skype calls, we did Zoom calls at 1:00 in the morning and, show me what you got. They send samples over. We send them back after testing. And that's kind of how a lot of that went is that.
Jeez, that's got to be a hell of a thing doing R&D all over Zoom.
R&D over Zoom and with delays in shipments and manufacturing closures of factories. That's put us back probably like 6 months of the wait where we initially thought we're going to be. We're like, because then, when you talk to sales guys and we talk to like your reps from factories, they're like, oh yeah, we can turn this around real quick. And then, 6 months later, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So is everything that you're like, all of the components on your scope made in Japan?
Yes, 100%.
It's 100% Japanese.
100% Japanese with stainless steel internals, like I said, and everything's made in Japan. And that's the thing. Like, once we get them, when we do the full testing protocol that we've developed for the scopes, we kind of run them through the ringer before we even put them away in the box ready to ship. So that's pretty much it. So we had I'd reached out to probably like 30 or 40 manufacturers, got heard back from half of them, because when you're starting up, nobody wants to deal with you.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
So then you're like, okay, we have funding. We're well taken care of. Like, we know what we're doing. We're not just some yahoos who want a free optic. Because a lot of times, like these guys tell me, they're like, oh yeah, we're starting a new optics company. They reach out to manufacturers because they want free samples, that they want a free optic, right? So so you kind of have to, they have to do their due diligence on you just as you're doing it on them. So that's an interesting exercise too. But honestly, like for us, the biggest thing was, finding a partner that we could work with that was reliable, that had a well-established history. They weren't just a fly-by-night thing. And then having it in a country that had a really good reputation for manufacturing. And that's why we chose Japan. Obviously, if we wanted to go the more inexpensive route, we could have gone with, something like China or Philippines even. But we decided to go with Japan because, we're a startup. We want to have a good reputation right off the bat too. So we want to put out the first kind of our flagship product is going to be our high quality product. It is going to be a high quality product. And we hope to continue that down the line as well as we release others, right? So we don't want to diminish our reputation with new products. So we're going to try to keep that same line.
I imagine you're probably getting a lot more guarantee of consistency out of Japan than you would be out of either the Philippines or out of China.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they go through a 3-stage QA/QC process before they ship the scopes out to us. And then we do another set of 3 tests, one to verify everything once.
And that's a country that still has a reputation for caring about that, about QC.
Yeah, right. Yes. I've taken a couple of trips to Japan over the last bunch of years prior to this endeavor. And every time I go there, I'm fascinated by how dedicated they are to everything that they undertake as a people in Japan, right? They have a very, like, it's just in their DNA and it's in their culture. Everybody, no matter what your job.
Yeah. They've set the mark in so many different ways. Like, I don't know whether, just trying to think of quality standards and that. For some reason, it sticks in my mind, Six Sigma came from there, but I'm not sure about that. But they've set the bar for so many things in manufacturing and that, and the innovation that comes from there is just wild.
Well, just in time,
right?
All that kind of stuff is all from Japan. I think it was Toyota, wasn't it? Potentially, So
I believe it was,
yeah. So I mean, they've you said they've kind of like the modern manufacturing and distribution system is mostly based on Japanese best practices, right? So so I was perfectly comfortable working with the Japanese company because, I mean, most of my glass that I've shot through my photography days was all Japanese anyway. It was either Nikon or Canon. So but it's that was kind of the thing. So we have the kind of pick of the litter. We went through a whole bunch of different manufacturers, and some were good, some were okay. There was some really good passable stuff that came out of the Philippines, for example, but at the end of the day, we're like, maybe we can do that down the line when we get huge, and and
you want to put a budget scope together or something like that.
Right. Yeah. But we want to be, so like our kind of motto, or what we want to try to be the best at, is providing excellent value, high quality at a mid-range price, right? So, top end glass, top end features, top end manufacturing and quality, and for a mid-range price. Like, you don't have to spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to get into our optic, right? We're aiming for this particular one to come in at around 2,100 mark. And right now we're doing a pre-order, pre-sale. We can save a couple $100 and it's $1,900 if you want to reserve it now. But so that's kind of where we're at.
What do those numbers look like for you right now? Or do you want to say?
Honestly, we've got solidly like 50-60 pre-orders in the system right now, and we haven't advertised. We haven't spent a dime advertising, so it's been good. It's been a really good response. The only thing that we did was this summer we sponsored a couple of PRS style competitions throughout Western Canada. So we did one in BC and we did one in Saskatchewan there at Cypress. The Cypress Showdown. We just put a couple of scope certificates up on the prize table and had some banners up and had lots of people come around and ask me lots of questions. They're like, oh, what's this? And obviously Shane at EM has been a huge supporter of what we're doing. And we sent him a demo a close approximation in an MOA actually,
Oh,
which was it's from outside looking in, it looks fairly close to what it's going to be, but yeah, it's still not 100% the final product. But yeah, so we had that on a demo rifle that Shane had put together with a bunch of other Canadian companies. I think IBI and MDT and Trigger Tech, and I think Curtis also put an action together, and that was like a loaner rifle that they had for for some company. I think for the furlong match there in Hannah. And he mounted it up there, and people got the chance to play with it. And a guy actually shot the entire match with it because his rifle got disqualified. So, yeah,
yeah. That I should have been at a couple of those matches this year. I just couldn't tear myself away from work. But it would have been nice to get out there and have a look through that thing. Yeah,
for sure. And yeah, definitely. You know, we have had lots of good feedback, and a lot of people are putting the glass on par with, dare I say, Night Force, you know, the old Nikon tactical brands that they had. And I'll put our glass up against more or less anybody, honestly. I'm very confident in it, and we wouldn't have signed off on it with, you know, if we didn't believe in it. Because one, most of us shoot anyway. So, you know, it's like, if I don't want to use it, then why am I trying to convince somebody to buy it?
Oh, yeah, precisely. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Chad Miller says, well, nice to see a Western Canadian company starting up. Look forward to trying one of your optics. No kidding. That when I first learned about you, I was excited to see that company in Canada, in Western Canada, no less.
Yeah, you know, like we've had a lot of, and I think that's why our pre-orders are doing so well, is because the Canadian shooting community is super supportive of Canadian companies starting up, right? And then it's just one of those things that I think there's one other Canadian company, obviously, that's out of the price range of most shooters, right? But so we're trying to not be in that price range, and we're trying to offer a really good set of features for an affordable price. But you know, having a Western Canadian company, we're having a lot, like I said, from the shooters that we've talked to and guys that have kind of collaborated on this project with us and provided input, everybody was super pumped about it, because it's like, holy crap, a Canadian optics company, that sounds amazing. So yeah. So that's kind of where a lot of the support comes from too.
And the fact that you guys seem to be getting all of the specifications right, I mean, that's just you know, that's going to really help consumer confidence, especially in something with a pre-order. You know, people, you know, that they've got, I'm sure everybody has their own things that's the most important to them, but it seems like as I was going through your specs, it's just, you know, magnification is, you know, you can't really complain about that at all. You know, you can't complain about 32 mils elevation. Yeah, you know, which is a little over 100 MOA.
I think it's 110 MOA.
Yeah. I mean, that's really good. You know, that's going to appease those people. You know, you got your 56 mil objective lens. That's going to appease the people who are, the scope's too dark. You know, like you're ticking all the boxes for all the people that are going to be looking for a precision type of scope, and you know.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we tried to do. Yeah, exactly. And you know, the thing is, like I said, with our warranty, you know, we'll stand behind the product 100% of the time, every time. And we have a warranty center here in Calgary, and then we have another one in the States. So for our U.S. customers, we have a warranty center. They don't have to send a cross border if they don't want to, especially with the shipping situation. The way it is now, everything takes like 3 weeks to get around.
No kidding. I was just thinking about this first shipment of scopes that you have for sale coming in January, you said, right?
Yep.
Like how has that been? What kind of duration was that? Or would you rather not say?
Well, no, it's been an interesting exercise trying to secure shipping space, right? So with luckily enough for us, most of the bog down is happening in the shipping route from China to Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
So from Tokyo to Vancouver, which is the route that we're going to be on, it's not that bad, right? So the shipping container shortage is not as complicated, and it doesn't impact us as much, and the price hasn't quadrupled like it has on the other routes. So it's doubled, but it hasn't quadrupled. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually, through my day job, I order product from both China and from Pakistan, and being able to avoid those additional shipping costs right now is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I honestly, when this was all happening, kind of at the height of COVID, and obviously still now, it's probably going to be like this for the next year or two. I'd imagine with the shipping situation trying to sort itself out, the trucker shortage at the ports, and all that jazz that affects it upstream. But I was really afraid because I was like, new company, we're trying to get out there. We have a dedicated shipment date that we said that we're going to be shipping these scopes to people that have, put down their credit card and then kind of basically pre-ordered a unit. So we want to deliver on that, right? And it's a very bad look on us if we don't. So I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we do that. So we're working through like Mitsubishi Logistics in Japan, and then other companies and brokerage houses, and we're trying to get all the little things and anything that could potentially hold us up out of the way. But and just like anything, there's tons of paperwork involved in importing anything. So that's been fun.
Just trying to make sure you're double dotting the I's and triple crossing the T's.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah. And it's probably a very smart approach to take, because as you said, gun owners are very supportive of new Canadian companies, especially, but can be absolutely heartless if they are disappointed once.
Oh God! Yeah.
People will turn on you real quick. Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. And I'm like one of those guys too.
Fucking hyenas.
Screw this. Throw it in the trash. I go.
Yeah. And then 25 years later, they come up with a product. You're like, 25 years ago, I bought one of those, and it was a piece of shit.
Exactly. Under new management, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you wouldn't be the first Canadian company to change their name just to get away from a prototype mishap. Crazy. Something I wanted to mention about your scope, which I think is a different than a lot of people are doing, and B, I think was an excellent choice, is just the aesthetics of it. Everybody is black.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you see someone that puts a brass ring at the front of the scope, but I mean, you've got, not only is your logo, at least the photo on the website, I don't know if it'll be shipping like this, but I would suggest it. What do I know? The logo is like really nice, sharp, and orange printed on that. Is that the battery cap and the
That's right.
parallax adjustment?
Yeah.
And then you've got a nice orange ring around the front of it, and your throw lever is entirely orange, contrasts like really nice with the rest of the scope. It kind of makes a guy want to build an orange and black gun to put it on,
Yeah,
I do love that orange.
I have a funny story about that. So I'll talk about the aesthetics of the scope a little bit too. So it was a very deliberate decision to kind of tie into our brand, because our logo is black and orange. And we're like, you know what? You're going to have a black body anyway. It's like a nice anodized matte. Mm-hmm. We're like, what would be cool is to do, have those accent colors really pop and tie in. So yeah, we decided to do that. So on the battery cover, it's not printed. It's actually going to be a embossed emblem. It's like a badge. It's going to be affixed to the cover there. So it'll be nice and nice looking for sure.
Yeah. And it's crazy how much aesthetics count, when people are making purchases. Well, here's a great example.
Look at what Joel is saying there.
Yeah, exactly. $3,000 Schmidt & Metter scope comes in a cardboard box with bubble wrap. $600 Element optic comes with a real nice box with cut foam. Nice packaging makes a big difference, even though it's irrelevant to the scope.
Yeah,
and that's funny, because a lot of people would argue, well, they're putting the money where it counts rather than in the damn packaging, that you don't look through the friggin' package.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. But it makes you feel good about your purchase.
It
though,
does.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's really pretty.
Yeah.
You know what? So I'll preview a box. So this is just a blank box, but we opted for the one-piece box. So this is not the one that's not what it's going to look like, obviously. But we decided to go with the nice hard foam cutout, laser cut. It protects the scope really well during shipment, but at the same time, it gives you that nice magnetic close. It's going to be nice. And plus, I think people are going to really enjoy the design that we did on the box. I can't share it just yet, but it's nice. There's a nice little homage to Western Canada with the Rocky Mountains on the inside of the box and the flip cover, but the outside is just going to be nice, clean, sharp, precise is what we're going for.
100%. Yeah. Modern, clean. Well, yeah, Jed says, can Vanya sell a green scope to me? Because if he wants a matching rifle, he knows a guy.
Man,
So
he's
Vanya,
trying to sell that rifle
Jens
to
has
you.
been trying to sell me a 6x47 precision rifle that he calls the Green Bastard for a while now.
I'll tell you a funny story about that, actually. So Shane, like I said, that loaner rifle that they built and they had it Cerakoted, and he calls me up and he's like, can you send a demo optic to go along with this thing? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So Shane's probably going to laugh at this because he calls me up literally, and because he hadn't been on our website, he hasn't seen like the logo or anything.
Right.
He's like, holy shit, you guys are orange and black? We built the freaking rifle orange and black, and it matched it perfectly. Like, you couldn't have done it better if you tried.
That's what you call kismet right there.
Right. Yeah, it was crazy. And we show up to the shoot, and we're mounting this thing on, like, holy crap, this looks amazing. So, yeah.
and not typical to what a lot of people would do. You know, like there's so much OD green and tan and, you know, earth colors in shooting, like black and it kind of looks like a burnt orange. Would you describe it as kind of like a burnt orange?
Yeah. If you think about that, like, I don't know, like the Nissan 350Z burnt orange, you remember that?
Yeah,
that's kind of the idea. That's kind of what it's going to look like.
The best kind of orange, 100%. And it looks so great with the black too. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. If God was building a rifle, he would build it black and burnt orange.
That's right. But yeah, no, that's kind of what we decided. Like, that's the thing. Like, we thought about doing, you know, something along the lines of having a signature anodized look. You know, do we make the whole thing burnt orange? Like, no, that would look kind of wonky, probably, right? Yeah. So we just decided to go with accents. Like, you know, certain scopes have certain signature looks. Like the Razor HD, for example, has got that dark bronze, right? So everybody knows that that's the Razor HD. So we were like, what's going to make us stand apart and kind of make us look, you know, when somebody looks down the firing line, there's, you know, 10, 12 scopes in your squad, or 12 different rifles in the squad, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's an Apex, right?
Yeah. The orange ring and throw lever, that's the Apex.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the primary reasons I've avoided the Razor HD, even though it's their higher end, is because that burnt orange looks horrendous on most.
You know what? You're not the first person I've heard say that.
It's such a, like we've been talking for the last 5 minutes or so about how aesthetics count. Vortex missed the boat, and I'm saying that as primarily a Vortex fanboy.
Yeah, you are.
I've shot a lot of I own a ton of Vortex stuff, like, for sure. That was primarily what I shot a lot of my stuff on. Yeah, for sure. So I get it. Yeah.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with it anyways, for sure.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah.
As far as no, you are sorry. How did I miss that all this time? I was like, when are you shipping it? And I realized as I'm asking the question, it's on the website, and we talked about it about 15 minutes ago. I was just typing to somebody when you were talking about it.
Yeah. So end of January next year is when we're shipping everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's for people who would like to get in on it. First of all, it's been mentioned a couple of times in the chat, but we'll mention it for our audio listeners as well. It's apexoptics.co. That's apexoptics.co. And you guys are taking pre-orders for your, what is it, your flagship, your initial, what are you calling it?
We're calling it our flagship product right now.
Your flagship scope, the Rival 4-32 by 56.
Yes.
It's a $200 pre-order.
It's a $200 discount on the pre-order. So right now, the way that we're handling the pre-order, we're not actually taking your money right now. So, you know, being a new company, we want to make sure that we have the people have the utmost trust in us. So all you have to do is, when you fill out your pre-order, you put your credit card down. We don't charge you anything until the product actually ships. So what you're doing is you're effectively reserving a unit. So the regular price, the retail price that we're going to be going with, is going to be about $2,100. So right now we're giving the pre-order discount, and you pay $1,900 and you reserve it at that rate.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you want to pre-order one, you go to the website, apexoptics.ca or .co. CO is our primary one. Check out the specs, ask us any questions if you want on any of our social platforms, or even or fill out the form on the website. One of us will get back to you. And then, fill out the pre-order information and off you go. You'll have one in your hands in late January, early February.
Fantastic.
So do you have any plans on spreading them around, getting them in the hands of some, for lack of a better way to put it, pro shooters or whatever? Get it out there and displayed and demoed?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, we're probably going to be we sponsored a couple events this past summer just to kind of get the initial word out there. Had lots of interest, obviously, and it was really great. Next year, we're already in talks with probably 4 or 5 shooters that we want to sponsor for the guys that compete regularly, and they're good guys. That's kind of our main thing, is we want to make sure that we're working with good people. I don't care, how well they place. It's just as long as they're fun to shoot with.
Well.
And exactly. They'll represent themselves well, and our brand and any of the other brands that they might represent, right? So want to make sure that we hook up with good people. And so there's going to be some Apex scopes on firing lines across the country. So in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario. That's the plan right now. So
awesome.
Yeah, and then plus we're looking to sponsor a bunch of rimfire guys too.
That would be a good idea, given Chris, easy. given the proliferation of rimfire sports lately. Yeah, I think that's a good move too, for sure.
See, Jens, that's a thing. Jens.
I'm still not convinced. Not fully.
Yeah. Well, I like to shoot long, so you can't really do. I guess you can shoot fairly long with a rimfire, right? With some good match ammo.
Well,
but
it's scaled, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely scaled. And the funny thing that I've noted, and I'm by no means champion rimfire rifleman. I mean, I'm not a champion centerfire rifleman either, but what I've noticed the most is that even with the really great rifles, your choice of ammunition, I would say, matters even more than it does with centerfire, just because the consistency is so important for private rimfire. I'm still a private, Jens. Come on, man.
You haven't earned your stripes, boy.
I deserve a promotion. But I mean, rimfire is probably a very easy market to be looking at right now, especially with that rival scope. It's, they're trying to do the exact same things. They're not doing it at the same distance. They may not be doing it with the same sort of precision, but they're using a lot of the same type of equipment.
Yeah. And you know what? Every single rimfire guy that I talked to, they want the scope because it has the elevation that they need for rimfire.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it has the magnification and all the other features that they're expecting, and kind of the same PRS style scope, but the elevation's there and the glass is there. So they're like, I really want one. So we're talking about, sponsoring a rimfire precision series out in Ontario, and just having some representation out there. And it's all over there. So I think rimfire is huge because I think it's exploding right now. It's so popular, and lots of guys are getting into it. It is a little bit of a smaller barrier to entry, so a lot of guys are taking it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you an optics question, but not necessarily a Apex optics question. And in fact, there's 2 questions here. Number 1, first scope you ever owned. Second, best scope you ever owned. Favorite scope.
First scope I ever owned was a Nikon Pro Staff on my hunting rifle.
Okay.
Yeah. Best scope I ever owned. I gotta say the Apex.
Say the rival.
It's gotta be the rival. I can't do it. Yeah.
Okay, second best scope you've ever owned. I'm safe with this one because you only have the one right now. It doesn't have to be current. It can go back as far as you want.
For me, the Viper PST is really good for the money.
Oh yeah.
So I like that one. It was good.
Interesting.
You can have
Fantastic.
it.
You can have it.
I'm a value guy, so for me, it's gotta hit the balance.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very much the same way. I've not, Night Force, Schmidt-Bender, all that sort of stuff. I've never been the guy that goes for the top tier. but I'm also like, I'm not showing up to any matches with a Crossfire 2 or anything either, you know?
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in the higher middle there. I think I've got a couple of, well, I've got Bushnell DMR and the ERS as well. They're both realistically the same. And they're, they come with a bit of a stigma in the name, I think. Just their Bushnell, their value scopes, sort of historically, right?
Yeah.
But they really did well with that line of scopes, I think. And you know what? I've had both of mine for, oh my God, quite a few years now, and I'm happy with mine. I'm not that gear snob either, and it does the trick. They're nice and tough, and I've definitely had worse. They're better than any of the Vortex that I've owned.
The DMRs are made in Japan, right?
They are,
Yeah,
for sure.
Whereas not all the Bushnell line necessarily is. So that's where you see that interesting jump in quality go, right? Or perceived quality. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of them made in the Philippines, I think, right?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
You betcha.
And there's some good factories out there that those guys work with, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want to break for a second here. Scotty's got a question about the Rimfire Sniper Series match at my range at the end of the month. And yeah, that's still a go. I haven't talked to Rick to see how many guys we got so far, but Scott's bringing his long johns. He's going to be camping out, and I don't know. I don't know whether I will or not, but I think I'm going to have to be forced into it since it is my range.
And then 2022 Sniper Series, you'll see some Apex scopes in the line, I'm sure.
Yep. Hopefully,
hey,
yep.
Would you mind, Alberta Rob here he's late to the show. Just a quick rundown on the specs, if you would mind, just the highlight sort of thing. Again.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a 34 millimeter main tube, 56 objective lens. It's a 4 to 32 magnification range with a 56 objective. First focal plane. And then we've got Amrad turrets and Amrad reticle. We haven't actually talked about the reticle that much, and that's one of our primary things that we actually did a lot of research and design on, because we can circle back to that. But so then we got, that's the thing. This is another thing that we haven't really talked about that plays into the rimfire game a little bit too, is the parallax side focus range. So we go from 15 yards to infinity, right? So that's really usel for rimfire, because not so much for PRS, but yeah, rimfire series for sure. And then we've got, I don't know what else to tell you. It's 32 mils of total elevation adjustment, total travel, 20 for windage, and I think it's like 15 inches total overall length.
Okay.
So
with 32 mils elevation.
That's right.
And what the heck was it in is it
110 MOA?
No. I appreciate you covering me on that. It was 20 mils windage, right?
20 mils windage, yeah.
20 mils windage.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other things that actually kind of sets our scope apart, especially in this price range, is that we're doing 15 mils per elevation rotation. So 15 mils per turn.
I noticed that, right.
With a pop-up turn indicator as well.
Okay, so what was the theory behind that?
Well, if you want to get more travel out of your turrets, that's the one way to do it, right?
Now you're going to make me count in half tens.
Yeah.
You mean fives?
No, half tens, idiot.
It's been mentioned a couple of times in the and I know I missed the first couple of minutes. I hope you guys didn't talk about it in the first couple of minutes, but it's because it's been mentioned in the chat a couple of times. I have to ask you: are there plans to ever release this scope in MOA?
If the demand is there, yes. So I'm not against MOA, and neither is anybody else that works with us. At the end of the day, this scope was designed for PRS style precision rifle shooting. So
which mills are very popular.
Yeah, and not hardly anybody shoots MOA in that space. There are some guys that do, for sure, but we kind of want to make sure that we're not too outside the lines. And then we also didn't want to carry too many SKUs, right? So we have our reticle coming out, which is the competition long range reticle that we designed with a lot of input from a lot of guys. And we try to make it as clean, as tight and compact and usable as possible.
Useful,
Yeah. But then we're also working on, we've actually just recently completed our licensing agreement with Horus on the Tremor 3. So we're going to be coming out with the Tremor 3 reticle version as well. So now between those two, now we have to carry 2 separate SKUs. If we did MOA, that'd be 4 SKUs. So we're trying to kind of keep it as simple as possible for right now. We're definitely not ruling out the MOA version.
So let's talk about your reticle. You're calling it the CLR reticle. I'm sure that it's not a mistake, that it's the acronym spells clear.
Yes.
So tell us about the reticle, because there's a lot in that reticle.
There's a lot there. That's a big task.
Yeah, for sure. So that, apart from the actual physical design of the scope, this is the thing that took us the most amount of time and the most number of revisions and versions and screwing around with every single little minutia of detail. So really what we do have is a center floating dot that's 0.05 mils. So the main actual kind of, if you're going to call them the traditional crosshair, doesn't exist in this reticle, right? So we kind of got rid of the top half altogether, erased it, and went from scratch with a thinner kind of 1 mil negative elevation holdover line on that. The one thing that we're doing is we're only illuminating the center lines. We're not illuminating the entire reticle, because if you need illumination, most guys that shoot PRS or competitive or even just kind of plinking, they don't use illumination all that much.
Well, you got to think of the poachers too, right?
Yeah, that's right. When you're trying to shoot an animal at 2 o'clock in the morning,
that's right.
Illumination's important. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Maybe we could even throw it up on the screen like Shane's suggesting. But yeah,
I actually am working on that as we speak. Carry on.
Good.
Continue.
I'm
perfect.
You're out.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then what we're doing is we're kind of, one of the interesting things that we have is the ranging mill marks that we decided to include in between the 5 and the 6 windage holdover and on each side of the actual center. So what that allows you to do is, if you have at any point in time you want to find out the size of your target, or in the inverse, you want to find out how difficult it is or how far away it is, if you know if the size of the target is actually known, you can do some math and calculate based on the size of those ones on the left, the 1.5 mil ranging marks is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So that's an interesting feature that we decided to include, because there are going to be some stages in some competitions where the match director is going to decide to be a dick and not give you a range for whatever, and then prohibit any use of any electronics to be able to range the target to determine how far away it is. So you have to use your reticle. Yeah.
So you got it right there.
And yes, it is a glass etched reticle, 100%.
Right.
And then some of the other things that we included in there are the floating dots at the elevation marks in the center. So
that's a neat concept for sure.
Yeah. And then in between, let's say the 1 and the 2 mark on elevation, and the 1 and 2 mils, we actually decided to give you half value reference marks in between. So that seems really smart too. And then obviously you got a 0.5 mil center floating dot. Yes.
So what we're looking at here, obviously, this is at full magnification.
That's right. This is pretty much at full magnification.
So let's take a look. Like, I know obviously we don't have an image of it, but what details am I making out at, say, half magnification and lowest magnification?
So we have a drawing on our website that shows you the 16x, which is basically half magnification.
Sorry, where do you have that?
It's just right below the main image.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll take a picture of that too.
Yeah.
I got to correct you there, Chris. You said 0.5 mil floating center dot. It's a 0.05 mil.
That's right, 0.05. It's half of a 0.5 mil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Half of a tenth. Yeah.
See,
Bad, Chris.
Half a 10.
Yeah.
Again.
A half a 10.
I'm surprised you don't have 15 mil marked on there somewhere.
If you guys give me just a minute here, I'm going to put the 15 magnification.
Yeah, that clear upper half of that scope is nice, especially especially when you're spotting for yourself, like you have to do so often in PRS games, to see that that trace, if you can, in the right conditions, right? That clear top half of your window is nice to have.
Yeah, that was the intent behind that 100%. That was one of the biggest things that we heard back from feedback from some of the top shooters in the country, is that, you know what, it's keep it open, because we all want to see trace, and you still have to have something if you need to hold under by 1 mil. So we decided to include that there, but for the most part, you'll be able to see our trace. And yeah, I mean, we've caught shit from certain guys, no names, obviously, if anybody's ever caught calling for somebody in certain competitions.
But I imagine at 3 magnification, you're almost just seeing an uninterrupted crosshatch, hey?
Yeah, that's exactly right. At the 4 magnification, which is our lowest, you're basically have.
Oh, sorry, that's at 3. Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah, at 4, you're more or less just see the main stadia. Yeah.
So this is talking about reticles and trace and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to take this off to the left a little bit. Any aspirations, any plans on developing a spotting scope?
Yes, we're actually we're in the process of doing that as well. So as far as scopes go, those 2 things are the ones we're working on. Like I said, the 1 to 10 LPVO, and then the 3 to 15 hunting optic. But we're in the process of looking at spotters, one for tactical use like this, and then one for hunting potentially.
You
but we're
are
not
a smart man.
Yeah. Well, I've been called worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've never been called that. So.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. We're in the very early stages of looking at manufacturers to work with, and some samples are getting sent in, and we're trying to determine that. That's going to be a little bit of a longer development process, I think. But we want to make sure we make sure we want to get that right. Like we don't want to just put out another spotting scope that competes against the $300 Amazon one or something, right?
Yeah, and then does the same thing, looks the same, functions the same.
Exactly.
Well, listen, your boat's floating now, at least, so that a lot of those initial hurdles should be well taken care of now in that respect.
Yeah,
so.
I think so. I hope so.
I don't know, man. If you can launch a company during COVID,
oh God,
and make it this far into it, like you're doing something right. There's no question about that.
So no,
I appreciate that. No, the COVID has kind of been an interesting time to start a company, to do international business in, and like I was saying to Rooster when we were chatting a little bit before, 2 young kids under the age of 2, and my wife was pregnant with our second when we decided to start this company. So a little bit nutty for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Jeez. Rob wants to know when are you bringing a sample to Milo for us to check out?
Yeah, anytime.
Get in line.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got the first shipment coming in the next 2 weeks of the ones that we're going to be using internally for a lot of demo and promo work and that kind of stuff. So definitely, if anybody wants to check one out, just let me know. We'll arrange something.
And you're in Calgary.
Awesome. We're in Calgary.
Should we dox him, Chris?
Should we dox him? What are you doing using millennial terminology?
I heard it just today.
Yeah.
So
what does that mean? Yeah, as long as you don't swap me, we're good. Yeah.
Well, you didn't. I don't know if you even used it properly, but
yeah,
I didn't.
Who am I to judge anyway? Yeah. Whatever. We'll dojo storm him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Scott, when is the closest sample to? Where is the closest sample to Regina?
Calgary.
Yeah. It's about a 6-hour trip, Scott.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. If Greyhound was still a thing, I'd put one on the Greyhound for you. But
right.
way to pick at old wounds, Vanja.
Yeah. Sorry. And it does not have locking turrets. So.
Oh, I thought it did have.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
No, so
it's got a turn indicator. Right?
It's got a turn indicator, and it's got hard 0 stop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I read 0 stop, and my brain said locking turrets.
Yeah.
I'm just out here misrepresenting your product. No big deal.
No, it's all good.
Well, if you'd shut up and listen every once in a while.
Well, I wasn't listening to that part. I was trying to read it on the website.
I know.
And then my brain read differently than my eyes did. But that's okay. All right, we've cleared the air. It's a zero. It's a zero stop.
Yeah, it's a zero stop.
Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
And the interesting thing with the zero stop too, that it has like 3 or 0.3 or 0.4 mil under zero stop, so you can, again, if you need to shoot under, you can.
Mhm.
On the reticle, you mean?
No, on the actual turret.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, can you get that scope on the screen?
The reticle, you mean?
No, the picture of the full scope.
Oh, sure I can. In the meantime, why don't we let Vanya answer Dan's question? Do you make
Right.
your own rings? I think we know the answer to that, but we'll let you take that anyway.
We don't make our own rings at the moment, but we have been in talks with a company, a well-known Canadian company, to make some rings for us. So
Excellent.
we will see how that goes.
And
Hey, that'd be
they
great,
do make
yeah.
excellent rings.
Yes.
Whoever they are.
Yes.
This is an interesting one from Scott again. Does the turn indicator limit the full amount like the razor? I didn't know the razor was limited like that.
So you have the option of flipping the turn indicator the other way, which will give you the full range of travel. So that's one thing. So you can turn that feature off if you want to. And then the other part of it is that, yes, it technically does, but we tried to mitigate that with the 15 mils per turn, because most of them are in the 10 range, I think. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I decided to go with 15 mils per revolution.
That
try
is
to
a nice
maximize
looking
that.
scope. Yeah, that's good. I didn't know that was a thing. I've never. I don't think I've ever even used the scope with a turn indicator. Well, I guess Jens has one on the Schmidt, but
yeah, because I think on the razor it pops out at the side, right?
I don't know. Huh.
Don't look at me. I've 90% of what we've talked about today has been new for me.
Not so rich guy. Our John is asking, will a spotting scope have a ranging reticle? I believe he did. Vanya did say yes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, on the tactical range, this tactical spotting scope, we would have a ranging reticle in there for sure.
He was also asking if your LPVO is planned to be first focal plane. I believe you said that was true as well.
That's right. Yeah, first focal plane and illuminated, correct.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to illuminate this one, I suppose it wouldn't make sense not to illuminate an LPVO.
People would look at us sideways for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do they know?
What do they know? Well, and we've had this picture of the scope up on screen for the last minute or two here, and obviously our audio listeners couldn't care less, so they should go to apexoptics.co and just take a look at it. But I mean, like, just looking at that thing, like it, the black and orange really does look good. I'm just going to say that.
Do you choose your vehicles by color too, Chris?
Often. Yeah. I very often buy either personally I buy black vehicles, and company wise I buy white vehicles, but every once in a while I come across a black vehicle with something like
with orange
highlights on it, and I'll buy that son of a bitch in a heartbeat.
There you go.
Right on. Well, that's great. We should probably get to a couple other things here, Chris, before we... Is there anything else anybody wants to know before we start winding down here?
Well, we've got to pay a couple of bills, but why don't we do that? And then I have one more question for Vanya after we do that.
All right. You got that up?
I do have that up. Am I first? Is that what you're trying to tell me here?
You go ahead with Odell. I did the call sign bolt action and
you're the best.
At the beginning of the show.
What I have to say about it is that our show is brought to you by Odell Engineering. The geniuses behind the Canuck line of firearms. Odell Engineering is your premium importer and distributor of some of Canada's top brands of firearms, including Bergara, Rock Island Armory, Mission First Tactical, Hyperfire, and of course, the Made for Canada Canuck firearms. Rely on Odell Engineering's expertise in the Canadian market to provide you the best quality in firearms and firearms accessories. Find their products and a dealer carrying said products at www.odellengineeringltd.com, on Facebook at Odell Engineering Ltd, or walk into your local gun store and tell them Phil sent you. And what do we say if they don't know who Phil is, Kurt?
I don't know. They
Fuck 'em.
need help.
Yeah,
Screw them.
you don't really work in guns
Yeah.
if you don't know who Phil is.
Who are you?
Yeah.
All right, our final shout goes to ScoutVid. ScoutVid is an interactive platform for youth of all ages to showcase their talent. From profiles to highlight reels, we put you front and center in the hockey world. Whether you're just getting into hockey or looking to make an impression on a junior club, ScoutVid gives you the tools to get noticed. Welcome to the show. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at scoutvid.com.
Fantastic.
Right, okay.
I want to ask Vanja one more question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just one.
And it's a very open-ended question, and it's a great wrap-up question. Vanja, is there anything that you would like the listeners to know about Apex, about the scope, about anything?
If I haven't already mentioned it, obviously, we're a brand new Canadian company, optics company based out of Calgary, Alberta. We're all shooters. The start of the company, we all love to shoot. We love shooting sports. We love competing. And, we started this company because we wanted to make the products that we wanted to use at, an attainable, affordable price that we thought was fair. So that's kind of our motto. That's how we try to look through everything through that lens when we try to go to make a product, when we're testing things, when we're hammering the crap out of stuff. We want to make sure that it's something we're going to use long term and something that we're going to stand behind. So that's kind of what we're all about. And that's everything to summarize kind of what went into this first flagship product that we're launching, and it's going to be all the other stuff that we come out with down the line. So if you want to support a Canadian company, if you have an optic that you're looking into for the next season, for next year, if you're building a rifle, let us know, reach out to us. We're happy to answer any of your questions, and we're here to support the shooting community as much as they are here to support us. So that's the way that we look at it.
Right
Awesome.
on. Looking forward to this. This is exciting for me. Canadian company with a scope like that.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
especially for a PRS boy like you.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually. While you were answering that, I did think of one more question that I can't believe we haven't asked. Are you guys going to be distributing by yourself for now, or are you going to be in retail locations? Or
yeah, that's one of the things that has been hotly debated at the company. For right now,
I only ask because JR Cox is obviously listening from the shooting or from Shooter's Edge.
Yeah, I see that. No, so we are going to be working with some specialized rifle builders for now. So we have a builder program that we're starting up. That's going to be a thing. We're working with potential distributors overseas, like in New Zealand and Europe and Asia.
Nice.
But most of the retail sales that we're looking to get into it's just going to be direct to consumer. That's how we can provide the most value to customers. Yeah. Obviously, we're not against working with somebody like JR and other business owners. If they're interested in having our scope in, we can definitely work with them on an arrangement that works for everybody. But for the most part, we're going to be looking to go direct to consumer.
Fantastic.
We take care of shipping. If there's any warranty issues, send it directly back to us. We'll take care of it, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A great way to get a new company off the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll look at distribution and something when the time is appropriate, for sure. We'll look at that again. We're not opposed to it.
Fantastic.
All right, Scotty's in for one. Awesome.
Scotty's in for one. But he's the only one who has the guts to say it out loud.
That's right. That's right.
I appreciate it.
Need the ticker tape along the bottom. So and so just pre-ordered.
We'll do it telethon style.
Right, exactly. Where are we going? Higher. All right, you bunch of schleps. We gotta wrap this up. Otherwise, Sean will be mad at us.
Yeah, Vanja, this was great.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
I liked hearing specifically about like your guys' new company and your guys' new scope, but I learned so much about scopes in general, just pretending that I already knew, just listening to you guys talking about it. So I especially found this really fantastic. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you. We'll chat
Excellent.
again soon.
You
Awesome.
betcha. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. And JR Cox is ordering one too. Thank you, JR.
Where are we
Thank
going?
you.
Higher.
That's right. Okay. See you next week.
Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.